are.
Whoa! Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Esposito, 6th grade science and social studies, Tingle Early College, and...
Hitting that table is really loud.
Yes, it's very loud.
And A.J. Wittenberg Elementary School.
Greenville County Public Schools. Who is better than us, baby? Guess what we did this week?
I don't know. What'd you do?
We went over the Mesopotamian era. Do you know anything about the Mesopotamians?
You know, I don't think I do. Can you tell me
These
about that?
these guys were fantastic, unbelievable. We started with the Paleolithic, we transitioned into the Neolithic,
Okay.
and then now we're going into the Mesopotamian. Mesopotamian, man, let me tell you what these guys did. You just bought those wheels outside, right? That brand new car?
Oh, yeah.
Whenever you look at a wheel now, you'll never think the same. The Mesopotamian, they came up with the idea of a wheel.
They did?
Yeah, they came up with the idea of a wheel. They started with wheels, and then what did wheels end up turning into? What did it turn into? What do you think?
Did they put two wheels together and make a wagon?
Yes, they started making wagons. What happened was they also invented this thing called irrigation systems. Before the Mesopotamians, right, they would just wait till the Tigris and the Euphrates River would flood. They'd plant all their crops, and they'd hope it would flood in, and it wouldn't flood too much because all their crops would get washed away. So they just hope, hey, now I hope we have good crops this year. Yeah. The Mesopotamians came in and said, hey, you know what? We have to control this flooding that's going on here. Yeah. So they came out with this irrigation system. They had levees. They had little dams. They had gates that would open and close.
The gates, yeah, the gates open and close.
The gates would open and close, and now they can control how much food they made. Wow. Since they can control how much food they had a ton of food left over, a surplus.
Extra.
Surplus meant we got to trade more of this stuff. Before a wagon wheel, they were carrying the stuff all around like this. How are they going to get it anywhere?
That's tough.
Now, they started making wheels. They started making wagons. Now they can carry huge cargo. They can ship it. Guess what else? Now they could take it from wagons, from their fields and irrigation systems and their farms. Yep. They can put it on the wagons and they can trade. But now they wanted to get on the other sides of rivers. So what do you think they came up with next?
Did they come with boats?
Not necessarily a boat, but something that's added onto a boat that makes things very, very easy. And we're going to be going over this in science, too. Has something to do with global winds and local winds and
sails.
Westerlies and easterlies and trade winds. Sails!
Yeah.
They're responsible for sails. Guess what else? You see this over here? Look at this over here. Guess who inspired this? You know who inspired that? Mesopotamians. That idea of 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute. The calendar, basically 30 days in a month, 12 months in a year. These guys inspired that. They came up with this thousands of years ago. They thought of it. We use this every day in our lives. We use it.
Mom.
These guys invented it. They invented this. Guess what else they invented?
I don't know. They invented computers?
Plows. When I say plows, not for snow. They invented the plows. They would attach the plow like a hoe. They'd attach it to the back of ox. The ox would drag this thing around, and it would cut like a nice deep trench into the soil. So guess what they did? They started domesticating animals. No more running around, jumping around with spears trying to kill animals. These guys domesticated animals, trained animals, and they herded animals. Now they didn't have to chase them around. They could kind of breed them. They can reproduce them. And now they'd have a bigger surplus. So what do you think happened to the cities in Mesopotamia? What do you think would happen?
They'd get bigger.
They'd get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Guess what would happen? Now, guess what? If me and Mr. Goff are living on top of each other like this, and somebody else is living, what happens when a lot of people are living on top of each other? Oh, disease. This was a big problem. Before the Mesopotamians and the Neolithic people, Paleolithic people were kind of spread out. But suddenly they were all living on top of each other, so there's sanitary problems. They didn't have plumbing. They didn't have toilets and sewers and so on and so forth.
Horrible.
So people started getting diseases. Yeah. And, you know, especially during the Neolithic times, people tended to be a little bit smaller. They were a little bit weaker.
Okay.
They didn't have to run around and hunt. It wasn't about the strong survive. It wasn't like that anymore. Now they kind of capitalized on their surplus and their foods and their crops, so on and so forth. So they didn't have to be that big anymore. A lot of things. They did a lot of things. What else? Mesopotamians. Guess what?
Let me see. I don't know. They did. I don't know.
Well, some of us have bikes. Some of us have skateboards. And the first thing we try to do, one of the first tricks, is a
360.
360. Well, guess who inspired 360 in geometry? Ex-math teacher here, too. We talked about this before.
I am a math teacher now, even.
Guess what? 360 degrees. The Mesopotamians, they came up with this.
What?
They studied the position of the moon.
You know what they are? What? They're the Steve Jobs of their day.
They were the Steve Jobs of the day.
The Apple computers of the day.
Steve Jobs of the day. They were magnificent, ladies and gentlemen. And guess what else they came up with? Not even going to believe this, boys and girls. Guess what?
Glasses.
Not glasses. Oh. Guess what?
Chewing gum.
They came up with a form of writing. What? The form of language. That's right. They had to come up with a form of language. There was so much trading going on. They needed to keep track of the trade. So they started coming up with a form of writing. And guess what about this writing? They didn't have paper. Guess how they did it?
They wrote it on tablets?
They would take clay, a small tablet of clay, soft clay. They go out and they'd take a piece of a branch, they'd cut it off and it'd be shaped like a wedge. Just cut the little end off. They'd press these little shapes and these little figures into the clay. And each little shape and each little figure represented something, like the sun, the moon, a god, ox, wheat. And eventually those pictures progressed and they developed an entire alphabet. And now they could keep records, precise, accurate records of what was going on, when it was going on, and what was happening. That's why they had all these great inventions. They could record things, they could see things, and they didn't have to try to remember everything in their head. Now they could look back in their notes. Now when they say to you today, they say, it's set in stone. What do you think that means, set in stone?
Once it's in there, it's there.
I've got a receipt. I think here it is. I got a receipt right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is from Smoothie King. I got a receipt. This proves that I had a transaction between me and Smoothie King today, and it's on paper. Well, guess what? When they wrote on those clay tablets, what happens to the clay over time? Heats up, guess what?
Oh, yeah, cracks. It
gets hard as a rock. So guess what? That receipt of that transaction that you and I made, I traded you 2 ox for 20 plows. Guess what?
It's a good trade.
Now you've got a receipt that is set in stone. So they've got thousands and thousands of these receipts. They call them receipts. These tablets that are set in stone. They're hot as a rock. They're there forever. Paper deteriorates. It dries. It cracks. It gets wet. It gets soaking wet if you put in the water. Rocks, they last forever. So they're still finding these receipts to this very day. We're going on and on. A lot of excitement. Next week, guess what we're going to be doing? We're going to be making
stuff.
Cuneiform.
Cuneiform, I was going to say that.
What's cuneiform?
Oh, it's a form of writing.
Form of writing. We're going to be doing that next week, ladies and gentlemen. There's going to be a lot going on this week. God, a lot of excitement. We're going to Clemson University, one of our partners here, because Greenville County School, you know Greenville County School, we're not just a public school here. We're a partnership. Clemson, Furman, USC Upstate, University Center, and Greenville County Public Schools got together and say, hey, let's make a Grand Slam. Let's get together and make our own school. So we all got together. Boom, this is it. Greenville Early College. The revolution starting right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, let's put a little bit of plug-in for the A.J. Wittenberg.
A.J. Wittenberg, and we're calling cross-country planning here. I'm on one part cross-country. I'm one part what county. He's on the other part of the county. We're getting together, and we're making things happen. Mr. Esposito, 6th grade science and social studies, Greenville Early College, and
A.J. Wittenberg Elementary School. Dave Goff, 3rd grade,
Greenville County Public Schools. Who's better than us? Two thumbs up, baby.
Where's that stop?